what we have done is to really focus on what you can do with children in school to help them learn to think more carefully, better. And we call that skillful thinking. So that's basically what my concern is. And, you know, I actually have been working with teachers since 1976. That's almost 30 years. And I go into their classrooms, work with them, and we figured out a way to teach students so that they get better and think more carefully, respect other people, and so forth. That's the basis of the methodology. That's not the methodology, but it's why. It's what motivates me.
Okay.
Well, that's a 21st century version of the 1976 example. Because, you know, anybody can put anything on the internet, and they can make it sound really good. But it could be completely false. So, you know, if you're using the internet, I mean, we teach students how to get information on the internet. And my feeling is, when we teach that, we need to teach students how to exercise critical judgment about whether the information they're getting is likely to be good information or not. And when I first started working in Spain, which is in 2007, I found that the teachers in the schools that I was invited to work with had the same view I had. And that is that having students memorize things, the rote learning method, where a teacher gives a lecture, students are passive, they copy down what the teacher says, they read a book, they take notes, and then they have to give it back on tests. I mean, my feeling was that that method of teaching is a complete failure. It does not work. I mean, students may learn a little bit, and you know, they may learn some language or some math that they use, but most of what they learn has no impact on their lives, and is valueless except as a route to pass tests. So students memorize things, they pass the tests, then they forget, and they go on to the next thing. And many teachers get caught up in that. Many teachers teach students with the goal of helping them pass the tests. Okay? And that's absolutely ineffective. Now, what I found was, and it actually was very interesting, that every single teacher in every single school that I started working with had the same attitude. There wasn't one teacher who said, memorization is the best way to teach. I mean, they all thought, it's not working, okay? But they had no idea what to do instead, okay? And and I love it for two reasons. Because the teachers I work with understand. They catch on. They know that this is a methodology that works. They try it. First time they try it with their students, they can see. But the second reason is the students, and it's connected with, you know, what you just read. Because I have come to feel over these 30 years that every student has the ability to become good thinkers and good learners. And if they don't, it isn't their fault. It's our fault, because we haven't figured out how to bring that out of them. Now, of course, there's some students it takes longer, okay? But the old view that some students are born smart and other students are not, and they'll never change, okay, that's just gone by the board. So that's basically the way I feel about all of this. And others have said, what you're proposing, this idea of infusion, it's like taking 1 cup of coffee, okay, that's the content curriculum, and you've got now the thinking stuff, and you want us to pour one into the other with no overflow? Okay, that's impossible. Okay, it needs more. We need a bigger container. That means more days to the school year. Okay, so it's the same issue. Well, I mean, I'll tell you, the cup of coffee thing, it's easy to focus people in a different way, because what I say is, there's a cup of coffee, okay? And I always ask, how many of you like coffee with sugar? And many people raise their hands, and I say, well, this coffee doesn't have sugar. And if you drink it, well, it doesn't taste so good. But if you take a couple of spoons of sugar and you put it in and you mix it up, it doesn't overflow. and you drink it and it's heaven. Well, that's what infusion is. Okay, well, the model, the basic idea is that, sure, at first, like anything, when you teach a new math skill, it takes time to, help the students to get at it. But then they start practicing it and using it, and things go faster and faster. Okay, well, same thing with thinking. And because the students are being taught to use some good, higher order thinking, not just memory, okay, but good kinds of thinking, to think about the content they're learning, their learning improves and increases. And many teachers say often they finish the textbook and they go beyond, okay, because this speeds up their understanding. So they're learning not just at the surface, but they're learning with some depth. And they get more interested, they learn faster and faster. Now, I always say that to people who raise the question about this takes time. And I say, well, don't trust me. I mean, how do you know I'm a reliable source? Okay. What I always say is, I say, well, why don't you try it out yourself and see what happens? I mean, you may find you're taking some more time at the beginning, but keep it going and see if it does make a difference in the way the students learn. Okay. And I really didn't know how to deal with it until I was talking to a friend of mine who was a teacher, a secondary school teacher. And he said to me, I'm concerned about critical thinking. I teach history. And I would like you to come and visit me in my classroom. And I thought, well, that should be interesting. So I went and I visited him in his classroom. And the students were studying American history. And they were studying a certain period in which there was a war going on. And they were reading their textbook. And their textbook said, well, this happened, and this happened, and this happened. Okay. And the teacher said to the students, well, let's summarize what you have in your textbook. So they did. And he said, well, something interesting. I was looking through some books last night, and I found another book written about the same period. And he said, let me read you some of it. And he read some of it, and it was just the opposite of what was in their textbook. So he said to the students, that ever happened to you? You read two things? And I said, oh, yes. And he said, well, how can you tell which one is better? Okay. And he said, one of them is from an American textbook. The other is from Great Britain, was published in Britain. And the students said, well, of course, the American one is better. And he said, well, are you sure about that? And they thought about it. They said, well, maybe not. And so he said, let's see if we can figure out, let's stand back from these books. Let's see if we can figure out what we have to find out to decide whether one of these sources is a good source. And they made a list of important things. They made a list, who was the author, and what was the author's background? Was the author a historian, distinguished historian, or was the author just somebody who writes textbooks and, doesn't have any particular expertise? And the publishing company, the publishers, what's their reputation? And where did the author get their information? So they made a nice list of things they need to find out. And they said, well, if we find out these things about both of these books, we can decide which we think is a good book to accept. And I thought that was wonderful because, students are slaves to their textbooks. The teacher says, read the textbooks, you're going to have to pass a test and give me back what's in their textbooks. Now this teacher was saying to them, stand back from your textbooks. You can think critically about whether what you're reading is something you want to accept. Okay? And the reason I really liked that was because that was something they could do about anything, any information they got about anything. They had developed a list of things they need to find out. Those are their standards for making a good critical judgment. So if somebody says, why are you not accepting what this other person has to say about whatever, they can say, well, he doesn't have any training in the subject, and he's going to make some money if you believe what he says. He says, well, we need to be cautious about that. Maybe we find a better source. So I thought that's great critical thinking, it's wonderful. And what I liked about it is that the students made all those things explicit. They made a list, they put it up on the wall so that they wouldn't forget. I thought that was great. Well, that experience just changed my whole life. That happened in 1976, and I thought every teacher in the world needs to find out about this. Okay, so that's, I've talked about this before in some of my talks, but that's my image now of what helping students to become better thinkers involves. You help them to think about something that, say, a prediction that somebody makes, and you ask, well, what do you need to find out to feel pretty sure that that's a good prediction and not just a guess? Okay, so that's because many teachers can come to me. They actually call me up on the phone to say, "Well, I just got our test results back. My students are way up," and and that happens. And when that happens, then it's that helps teachers get a sense that maybe changing things to these kinds of skills and have students use those skills to think about the content, maybe that is going to make a difference. Okay, I mean, I happen to feel that this is the most powerful way that anybody can teach, not just in Spain, but anywhere. And there are results all over the place.